Good morning, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Urbana-Champaign. My name is Reverend Sally Fritchie, and I am the Associate Minister here. I'm so glad to be with you, streaming live from our sanctuary here on Green Street. We are no longer requiring online registration to attend Sunday services. Hooray! Though we still ask that everyone in our sanctuary remain masked because we want to be able to welcome young kids and others not able to be vaccinated. You are invited when you arrive to grab a color-coded lanyard, red to indicate that you still feel cautious being in shared space, or green to indicate that you feel safe being physically closer together, yellow for in between. Look around and be aware of others' needs and boundaries in our space while we're together today. And we'll be inside in our fellowship hall for post-service coffee and snacks, which means we'll be eating and drinking, masks optional. We are continuing to find our way forward through all these uncertainties with our values and our mission at the heart of everything we do. This congregation's mission is to build community, seek inspiration, promote justice, and find peace. We are a church of many different beliefs. And yet amid all that difference, we come together week after week, year after year, even through the pandemic, and strive to do the work of beloved community. Know that in whatever form you find us today, if you are here with me in the sanctuary, if you're tuning in to our live stream at home, or if you are watching the recorded service days or weeks later, this is here for you, and you are welcome here. My hope is that today's service will truly serve as a sanctuary, a place of safety, of refuge, a time to feel the feelings we can't make time for in our busy day-to-day lives. This past Thursday, April 7th, marked the 2-year anniversary of the first COVID death here in our county. That was the first life lost of what would 2 years later be a death toll of 292 here in Champaign County. And when's the last time we let ourselves think about that? When's the last time we let ourselves just feel the sadness of that loss, the simple grief of it? There's so much going on, so much that needs our attention and our energy, that I felt the need to carve out some time on a Sunday morning on this anniversary week to just pause and acknowledge that what we are going through and what we have lost is worth mourning. It's worth weeping over. It's worth a moment of laying down our expertise, our responsibilities, all the many needs of the world, and just saying, this hurts. And I don't necessarily want to bring you down or make you feel bad. To be honest, I'm in a great mood today. I'm surrounded by flowers. The sun is shining. It's warm. I'm looking at your beautiful faces. And if that's how you're feeling too, if you are feeling joyful and light, don't let me stop you. I only want to make space, remind ourselves that it's okay to be sad sometimes. It's okay to feel. All the music today and the readings, the sermon, everything is an invitation to feel. To let go of that I'm okay and everything's fine mask that we might wear sometimes, and to face whatever sadness we carry with us with honesty and with vulnerability. And maybe being in that space together for a minute will make it a little easier, a little more healing, give us all more strength when we need to go pick those burdens and expectations back up when Sunday is over. This is my hope for us today. May we all find our way there. If you want to follow along with a written order of service, there's a printed version available here in the sanctuary, or you can find the link just below this video on our website. If you want to chat online with your fellow UUCUC members, you can find the live stream chat box on our YouTube page. Remember that because we are live, there's still time to make your own contributions to our shared joys and sorrows later in the service. And to do that, you just email your message to joysandsorrows@uucuc.org. If you're here in person, you can also email on your phone, or you can write on a note card for handwritten joys and sorrows, which will be collected later. This congregation chooses to begin every Sunday with a formal acknowledgement of the indigenous nations of this land. It's a practice that roots us and connects us to the history of this specific place and our own responsibilities as stewards and members of this community. So wherever you are listening from today, allow yourself a moment to sink down into the deeper history of that specific place. Mentally follow the line of the floor that you stand on to the wall and down to the foundations and into the dirt. Think of all the lives that have taken root there. The people who have stepped over that same patch of earth that you are on now. The plants that have sprouted and flowered and decayed there. And yes, the many people and peoples who stewarded this land for generations long before you were born. Here on Green Street, we worship on the land of the Kickapoo, the Peoria, the Miamiwa, and the Sioux. And these are peoples that still exist today and are committed to a continued struggle for survival and self-determination. Wherever you are this morning, I invite you now to take a breath and consider the history and peoples of the land you are resting on. And may we always remember where we are, the sacredness of every place, and the many people, human and otherwise, who belong to it with us. We, as UUs, begin our Sunday gatherings by lighting our chalice, symbol of our Unitarian Universalist tradition, the flame of hope in the cup of sharing. If you're at home and have a chalice or candle to light, I invite you to join us in lighting it to make a way of creating shared space despite our distance. And after our chalice is lit, we will hear a choral piece written and performed for the virtual General Assembly of our denomination in June of 2020. But first, if you wish, I invite you to join me in saying our shared chalice lighting words. With hope for a bright future, we come in trust. With love in our hearts for all of creation, we come in humility. Seeking justice for all, marginalization for none, we come in open-mindedness. With courage, we come willing to be transformed. With great joy, we come to bind ourselves to each other, so that we might be able to do together what we cannot do alone.
There will be better days. 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 Let the wave wash over. There will be better days. There will be better days. I am There will be better days. There will be better days. Let the wave wash over. There will be better days. There will be better days. There will be better days. Let the wave wash over. There will be better days. There will be better days. Let the wave wash over. There will be better days. There will be better days. There will be better days. I am ready. be better days. There will 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 be better days.
Or have an interaction that is intended to be for all ages, all learning styles, to invite everyone into our worship together. Usually you would have the joy of seeing Rose St. Clair, our DRE, up here, but Rose is sick this morning. So instead we send our healing wishes their way, and you are stuck hearing from me. So I wanted to tell you a story this morning about a bucket. So once upon a time, there lived a bucket. And this bucket lived on a farm and worked very hard every day, carrying water back and forth for everyone else on the farm. And this bucket knew that it could never, ever let itself cry. Because if it cried, if it let a little bit of water leak out, then what would stop all of the water from leaking out? It would be a cracked bucket, and nobody wants a cracked, leaky bucket. And so whenever it would feel really full, has anyone ever felt really full, really, really full to the brim? It would just hold it in, and it wouldn't let any tears leak out because nobody wants a cracked bucket. But one day, things were just too overwhelming. It had carried water back and forth and back and forth. It felt full to the brim with feelings. And then someone stepped on its handle, and that was it. It let some tears leak out. And actually, after the tears leaked out, it felt a little bit better. Things felt a little bit more manageable, but it didn't want anyone to know because nobody wants a leaky bucket. So the bucket started sneaking around and crying in secret whenever it felt too full. It would go around the side of the barn and just let a few tears fall. Or it would go to the corner by the swing set and just have a quick little cry when no one was looking. Sometimes it would go into the greenhouse where it could close the door, and then it could really let the tears fall. But one day, the farmer walked in just as the bucket was wiping its eyes and starting to sniffle and get itself back together to go out there and carry some water. And the farmer said, What's going on? What's going on, bucket? And the bucket said, Oh, I hoped no one would ever find out. I'm a leaky bucket. I have to carry everyone's water, and I don't want to let anyone down. I can't let them see. And the farmer said, You're not a leaky bucket. You're a watering can. And the farmer said, Look at where you cried. And the bucket looked, and it saw little green shoots coming out of the dirt. And the farmer said, Come out of the greenhouse, look over by the barn, look by the swing set. There are flowers growing everywhere that you cried. Oh my gosh, every time you let your feelings out, you were doing exactly what you were supposed to do. I can't believe you were sneaking around thinking you would hide it. And the watering can was so relieved. It was so happy to know it wasn't a leaky bucket after all. It was supposed to be crying. Crying was part of what it was made to do. So from then on, whenever the watering can felt full, overflowing with emotion, it let some of it flow out. And everyone on the farm was so glad to have such a leaky bucket. The end. Totally just a story about a bucket. No other meaning. So we as UUs know that our circle of care doesn't stop with our community or with our church doors. We are deeply connected to the place we find ourselves in, to the wider world. I hope that you continue to keep an eye on your e-News weekly newsletter, which is very long but very packed with good information about how to show up, how to find support for yourself, how to give support to others, how to be involved in this community. You are joyfully invited to show up here this Saturday, April 16th at 3:30 p.m. to see our pianist Juan give a pre-recital performance just for us of his upcoming graduate program performance. Oh, I'll also know before that, this what got added in today when I read my e-news. Today after church, we are having a listening session right here to talk about some of the proposed rule changes about how gift giving works in the church. This sounds, very nitty-gritty, but is really important to how we function as a community. So if you have any opinions at all about how money is spent in churches, I hope that you show up and share them. Remember that our Easter Sunday in the Park is coming up. This Sunday, we'll be out at Crystal Lake Park for an Easter flower celebration, and we are keeping an eye on the weather, so keep an eye on your inbox for more information about whether that will go forward or whether it will be rain date or cold date here in the sanctuary. We'll be saying our formal goodbye to our beloved Reverend Florence in that service, so everyone is invited to show up and be part of our honoring and gratitude for her years of ministry with us. There will be desserts afterwards, an egg hunt, and a chance to contribute to her goodbye gift, which we're being cagey about because she might be tuning into these services. But there is a table in Fellowship Hall today where you can learn more about how to do your part to make something for that gift. And I will now hand us over for a word from Chris Hanauer about our upcoming church auction.
Oh, brother. Good morning. It's so good to see you all here in person. And making this auction announcement in person, it just feels like happy times. So, yes, I'm here to let you know at here and at home that our service auction is Saturday, April 30th. It will be live in the church building again for the first time in 2 years. It's going to be online as well. It'll basically be a party here in the church with the online auction happening simultaneously. It is from 5 to 8. We will be serving heavy hors d'oeuvres and a variety of beverages, both adult and not adult. The theme this year is Saturday Night Live. Thought it was appropriate since we are live in the building. And we encourage you to come dressed as your favorite Saturday Night Live character. We will have the Johnny Beckett combo playing here, and it will be a bring your own device event. So if you're coming to the party and you want to be able to bid on things, make sure you bring a smartphone or a laptop or something. We will have tech support and electrical support here for you if you need it. The tickets are $10 per person, $30 per family, and we will start selling them today after the service in the Fellowship Hall. Look for Jared. He'll be there with a laptop. Of course, all of this only works if we have donations from you, our beloved church community. So please get in your donations. And then we will also need volunteers to help during the party. We especially are looking for someone who could, or for 2 people who could do childcare. And of course, the most important part, people to bring yummy desserts. So all of that, information about all of that and how to sign up for all of that is on the church website, uucuc.org/auction, or you can email us at auction@uucuc.org. The website may not be up today. It will certainly be up tomorrow. But anyway, thank you for your time, and we look forward to seeing you on the 30th.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you to everyone who is making that event happen. I will say that I am, similar to last year, submitting the chance to bid on choosing a topic for a sermon that I will write. So if that appeals to you, if you have something you need said from the pulpit, show up to the auction. Every Sunday, in recognition of our very real interdependence on each other, we pass the plate and we share our offering with an organization doing the work of justice in the world. For the month of April, which is Sexual Assault Prevention Month, we are splitting our collections 50-50 with RACES, or the Rape Advocacy Counseling and Education Services. We have a brief video submitted from Races sharing a little bit about their work and their mission.
Hello, my name is Joe Colasetti. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I'm the Executive Director at Rape Advocacy, Counseling, and Education Services, also known as RACES. I wanted to take this opportunity to thank you all for making RACES the social action offering recipient for April of 2022. April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and this year we are also celebrating our 50 years of providing services to survivors of sexual violence in our community. At RACES, we offer a range of services, both preventative and in response to sexual violence and stalking. Our prevention services are offered in an age-appropriate, trauma-informed, and evidence-informed way to audiences of all ages, starting from preschool all the way up through professional adult trainings, so that we can work towards a safer and better world. For those who've already been impacted by sexual violence or stalking, we offer a range of services as well. We have our 24-hour hotline that's available anytime, any day at 217-384-4444. And then we also offer more specific services depending on survivors' needs. We have medical advocates who can respond to the emergency department anytime a survivor goes in for medical care or evidence collection to make sure they have support, information, and resources. We also have legal advocates who can assist with obtaining a protective order, going to court with folks, which can be a really intimidating time, and then tracking and ensuring that survivors are informed of what is happening with any criminal or civil case that they might be involved in. For more long-term support, we also offer free trauma-informed, and confidential therapy services for survivors and their non-offending significant others. We offer these range of services thanks to the support of community members like you. All services are free, all services are confidential, and together we are working to create a safer and better community. Thank you so much for all you do to make the work of RACES possible.
You can give by text or through the online portal on our website, and if you're here in the sanctuary, the basket will be passed, and checks can be made out to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Urbana-Champaign. We invite you to give whatever is generous for you, and know that anything you contribute will be gratefully received and put to use, helping make a real difference here in our community. The offering will now be taken. Today's reading is an excerpt from Emergent Strategy, written by Adrienne Marie Brown. After the reading, I'll be inviting you to rise and sing together a simple and familiar hymn, Comfort Me. But first, Adrienne Marie Brown writes, "Remember, you are water. Of course you leave salt trails. Of course you are crying. Flow. If there happen to be a multitude of griefs upon you, individual and collective, or fast and slow, or small and large, add equal parts of these considerations. That the broken heart can cover more territory. That grief is gratitude. That water seeks scale, and even your tears seek the recognition of community. That the heart is a front line, and the fight is to feel in a world of distraction. That your grief is a worthwhile use of your time. That your body will feel as much as it is able to. That the ones you grieve may be grieving you. That the sacred comes from the limitations. That you are excellent at loving." And now I invite you to stand if standing is comfortable for you, and join in singing hymn number 1002 in the Teal hymnal. It's a song that will come back later in this service, and when we sing it together, I invite you to lift your eyes to the screen, to Amy here, to each other, simply to the rose window, rather than holding tight to the hymnal, because the lyrics and the melody are so simple, and the message of comfort is felt more fully when we aren't focused on getting it exactly right. Comfort me. Comfort me. Comfort me. Comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me. Comfort me. Comfort me, oh my soul. Sing with me. Sing with me. Sing with me, oh my soul. Sing with me. Sing with me. Sing with me, oh my soul. Thank you. And we will return to Comfort Me later in the service as well. A friend of mine who serves as a hospital chaplain shared a story recently of finding a nurse crying quietly in a stairwell at work, and how she knew right away that this nurse must be brand new to the job because it had been months since anyone working at that hospital had cried. At some point in this pandemic, all the stress and grief and overwhelm had become routine for them, and emotion had to be pushed to the side to make room for the work. My friend said the new nurse dried her tears right away and apologized, saying, "I'll be okay." And the chaplain responded, "The tears are okay." And seeing your tender heart so close to the surface still is a gift to the numb hearts out there on the hospital floor. It's a gift especially to the patients and to their families. They took another minute there together in the stairwell, just letting the tears fall before getting back to their separate rounds, getting back to the work. And there has been a lot of that these past 2 years, getting back to the work, getting on with it, putting our armor on and doing our best. Whether you're a frontline worker, a parent, an at-risk patient, or just any person who reads the news, we all need those moments in the stairwell to just let our guard down and cry and be not okay for a minute. And we all need someone there to remind us that those tears are a gift, actually, a gift that we give to ourselves and to those who see our tenderness, a vital part of being human together. Humans are the only animal we know of that cry emotional tears, rather than the practical tears of washing dirt and dust from our eyes. And the Hebrew Bible describes tears as a product of when the material of the heart weakens and softens and turns to water and evaporates out through your tear ducts. When we are born, all we have is crying. We humans come into the world completely vulnerable, and tears are how we get the attention of those who will care for us, who will love us. And even though we like to think we grow out of that vulnerability and dependence, we are never grown up enough to escape the occasional wave of helplessness. And when was the last time you let yourself cry? The last time you let your heart truly dissolve and be soft to all that the world demands of us? And the last time you felt safe enough to cry with others? Your tears seek the recognition of community, writes Adrienne Marie Brown. The heart is a front line, and the fight is to feel in a world of distraction. Now, we don't all express ourselves with tears, I know. Maybe for you, those moments of vulnerability look different, look like letting your pleasant smile fall at the end of the day, or letting a deep, exasperated sigh escape. Just sitting down, putting your face in your hands and feeling the weight of it all. The fight to feel in a world of distraction. And the thing is, turning off the distractions and busyness for even a second and cracking the door a little bit for some emotion to come in feels risky. Feels like it will be an uncontrollable flood that rushes in over us before we can get the door shut again. So we just keep it shut. There's a reason that brand new nurse was all alone in her stairwell while so many of her more experienced teammates kept on working through the loss and heartbreak of their day. Once we risk deep caring about one hurt, where does it end? So we stay strong, we get through the day, we distract ourselves, we put on the armor and muscle through. And I have seen how strong some members of this community have been these past 2 years. I see you. I see how hard you are working, how much you are keeping afloat with pure willpower and dedication and grit. But church should be a place where you don't have to be strong all the time. We need this church to be that quiet stairwell, a place to step into and be safe, taking a moment to feel before getting back to the work. And ritual, lighting candles, singing, returning to familiar spaces and familiar practices is one way we make space for that, for laying our armor down. One way we can finally feel safe enough to let a little bit of the world's hurt in. We are in a profoundly holy season right now. It's the month of Ramadan, marked by Muslims worldwide with fasting and prayer and deep reflection. This Friday is the first night of Passover, Jewish remembrance of ancient liberation and survival. And today is Palm Sunday, the beginning of the Christian Holy Week, leading to the solemn grief of Good Friday and the joy of Easter. The boundaries that keep things separate, safely divided, feel thin during such an overlapping sacred season. All the earth's emotion feels close to the surface, ready to break through with only the slightest provocation, with the next fall of rain. And when we come together to fast or to meditate, to sing, to sit around a table, the grip that our everyday lives have on us seems to weaken. It's pushed out of the way for a minute, leaving space for something else. And there's something about an anniversary that demands that sacredness, that pause, to look back and remember what's past. So 2 years after our first local COVID death, we will stop what we are doing and just remember. One of the last sermons I gave before lockdown in 2020 was called "You Are Not Alone." And it was all about how important community and just being there can be when people are struggling. I preached that we couldn't promise to solve all each other's problems, couldn't promise to rescue the whole world, but we could promise that no one has to be alone in it. We could promise, and I did promise, that we would be there for each other, that I would be there for my community in their hardest moments. And those first few weeks of lockdown were a scramble. I mean, you remember. I don't think I've ever emailed so much in my life. We were all becoming experts suddenly in web video editing and public health policy, and juggling about 1 million different emotions at all times. It felt like I didn't have time to be sad because we were all too busy being anxious and making high-stakes decisions. So do you remember when it really started to hit home for you, when you felt it? I imagine everyone has a different point, a different news story, or family member or frontline experience. I remember the first tears I shed for this pandemic were when I realized I wasn't going to be able to keep the promise I had made in that last sermon. When I FaceTimed with someone in the hospital, knowing that they were facing the worst days of their life, knowing they were scared out of their mind, and knowing that they wouldn't have a hand to hold or familiar eyes to look into. Knowing that the medical staff were doing their best through layers and layers of masks and face shields, but that someone I had made a sacred promise to was going to die alone anyway. And knowing that this was going to happen over and over again. When I hung up that FaceTime with the nurse, I cried and cried. And that night I was on a Zoom call with some of my classmates from seminary, many of whom were also in their first years as ministers. And I could see them in their little muted squares crying with me. And eventually, weeks and months, and now years into the pandemic, the tears dried up. Or at least were not nearly so close to the surface, because how could they be? The heart really isn't made to comprehend this type of scale. The numbers we were reading grew so quickly. 981,000 deaths in the US now, over 6 million worldwide. Numbers that are so large they become fundamentally impersonal, unmournable. Numbers that have a way of inviting comparisons. How do these deaths compare to how many died in the 1918 flu, or how many die in car crashes, or how many suffer from some other terrible affliction? A single human life has infinite worth to those who love it, but we lose that so quickly in the vastness of these statistics and in the bottomlessness of the world's need. Wherever there is suffering, someone somewhere else has it worse. So where do we even begin with our grief? In late 2020, members of this congregation worked together to create the Open Hearts COVID Memorial, marking each local life lost with a red heart right out on our front lawn. And at that time, there were just under 100 hearts. People could come have the name of their loved one written on a specific heart if they wanted, and anyone passing by could stop and rest for a moment, bearing witness to what the memorial represented. It felt important to offer something visible and public, and we called it Open Hearts, because even then, less than 1 year out, we could feel our hearts closing, our grief getting all stopped up as the practical demands of pandemic life overshadowed everything else. The Open Hearts Memorial has moved since then, first to a handful of other churches, finally landing at our public health district office, where tireless public servant Julie Pride is its caretaker and steward. Julie still sends an email to us here at UUCUC with every single heart she has to add. 292 now. And she feels it every single time. I can't help but feel a resonance with another public memorial effort, having just recently visited the display of AIDS quilt squares on campus. The beauty and simplicity of the AIDS quilt, in which loved ones stitched colorful 3-foot by 6-foot fabric panels, honoring the humanity and individuality of those lost to that pandemic. It goes straight to my heart. Each panel is the size and shape of a grave, but each panel contains such detailed and loving intricacies, such an infinite depth of love. One of those on display here has a fabric book sewn into it. You can turn the pages, and each one has a handwritten letter from a family member or loved one. It's when we let go of the vast scale of it all and let ourselves sink into the tragedy of a single life lost that we begin to feel our hearts open back up. A song that we'll hear after today's homily was actually first written during the creation of the National AIDS Quilt, and it resonated so strongly with our current pandemic that the minister we'll see perform it felt compelled to sing it again as a kind of prayer, a prayer that we remember our humanity, remember to make room to feel the sadness of loss, even when it feels like it will be overwhelming to let it in. When the USA neared the milestone in 2020 of 100,000 COVID deaths, the New York Times ran a cover story, maybe you remember it, with no pictures, no pull quotes, just a list of names with little half-sentence blurbs, descriptions of the people represented. John Fall, inventive landscape photographer. Lee Konitz, saxophonist and master of cool jazz. Lori Apple, worked tirelessly as a mental health advocate. Andrea Ludgen, winner of the Art Prize in Mount Holyoke. John McClintock, cherished grandfather. On and on. And everything I've tried to say this morning, all these words about the value of tenderness, the value of tears when faced with human loss, of focusing on the small and the individual, even when there are bigger and more urgent concerns out there, really could have been deleted and replaced with that list of names. Because that's what it is. It's just sad to lose so many people. And I can't promise that everything will be okay, but I can promise to say your name. We can promise to say, you mattered, we see you. Your life still has the power to touch mine, the power to turn my soft heart to water and bring tears to my eyes. I pray that each of us today finds our own way to be together in a quiet stairwell between hospital floors. I pray that you let your guard down when you get the chance. Remember, you are water, and of course you leave salt trails. You are living through something extraordinarily hard. You are bearing witness to something extraordinarily sad. You are a human among other humans, and you don't have to be strong all the time. So in love, in memory, and in open-heartedness, may it be so. Amen.
Just about 100,000 people have died from COVID-19 over the past 3 months in the United States. And every one of those people had a name, and every one of those people had stories, and every one of those people had other people who loved them and who are missing them today. I've been thinking about that. I've been thinking about how important it is that we not forget that. Back in the 1980s, during the height of the AIDS epidemic, organizers put together a giant quilt, and every panel on the quilt was made by the family or friends of someone who had died from AIDS. All of their names and something of their stories on those panels. It was a powerful memorial and reminder, and it inspired Kathy Fink to write one of the most beautiful songs that I know, which I'd like to share. It's called Names. Patchwork with thousands of precious names. There must be someone that you know, woven together in a quilted frame. Names the loved ones won't let go. And I know that my name could be there, and I feel the pain and the fear. And as human love and passions do not make us all the same, we are counted not as numbers but as names. We grieve for the lovers and the families, and I pray they'll meet again someday. But until that time, I will carry the flame. As the numbers grow, we'll not forget their names. And I know that my name could be there, and I feel the pain and the fear. And as human love and passions do not make us all the same, we are counted not as numbers but as names. A lover, a carpenter, a father, a friend, a sister, a minister, a mom. Each quilted piece holds a memory. Each memory helps us to go on. And I know that my name could be there, and I feel the pain and the fear. And as human love and passions do not make us all the same, we are counted not as numbers but as names. And as human love and passions passions do not make us all the same. We are counted not as numbers, but as names.
Amen to that as well. Each Sunday, we make sacred space to share the joys and sorrows closest to our hearts. Today, especially, we honor the small individual joys and sorrows that everyone here is carrying into our time together. If you wish me to share them aloud, there is still some time to send them in via email to joysandsorrows@uucuc.org, or to write your joy and sorrow on a card and pass it to the outside aisles where an usher will come by to collect them. Juan will play our blessing song, Long Time Son, while we write, and then I will share the joys and sorrows of this community. From Mick McEnroe. Today's service about mourning feels so fitting, as my family has been feeling sorrow at the recent passing of Jim Worley, longtime friend of my parents and a favorite of mine from those who came to my dungeon runs my dad hosted during my childhood. Jim gave me the book Fox and Socks, which became my favorite book, especially when his younger brother Fred would read it with me. Jim's memorial service yesterday was a lovingly personalized celebration of his life. There were many quotes from The Lord of the Rings, and a 20-sided die was rolled to determine who would read each of the readings. It was wonderful to see so many people, only few I see often or not so often, and most I hadn't seen in decades or was meeting for the first time. All were there with the common thread of having had the wonderful opportunity to have their lives touched in some way by such a wonderful person, as those positively impacted by Jim are missing his physical presence. I know he will continue to live on through them. A joy from Avalon Ruby, our AV Tech. Grateful for being part of this congregation in so many ways and being allowed to explore spirituality and new feelings with so many wonderful people. A sorrow from Jenny Lokshin. My friend died by suicide this month, leaving family and friends who had no idea how much he was hurting. Please keep his daughters in your hearts and know that you are loved and valued. Please call 800-273-8255 if you are in crisis. From Jenny Hunt, sorrow that we have not seen my brother in over 2.5 years. Joy that the plan is for him to arrive Thursday from Arizona. It will be so good to see him. From Pat McClard, great sorrow over the dissolution of my marriage of 24 years. Joy for moving into a new house this week and adopting a dog named Charlie. From Jerry Carden and Tim Temple. Sorrow for the fact that Laura Wetzel is no longer here to experience this blossoming of spring. Joy for the celebration of her life yesterday, to meet her family and remember her many talents, many of which she used to help preserve this building, tend to the landscapes, and especially her sense of humor. The flowers here on the pulpit are from her memorial. A sorrow from Jessica Augustin. My Aunt Sherry is now in comfort care. She's my mom's eldest sibling, and I will miss her. An anonymous joy, gratitude for Reverend Sally, who brings joy to this congregation. I was going to say I'll give you a $5 after the service. Joy from Linda Owens to be back in the sanctuary again. And finally, joy from Amy Robinson. Great joy to welcome my first grandson, Sean, into this world. He arrived a little early, but 6 pounds and a full head of hair. Thank you all so much for sharing. I invite you to take a breath, rest your eyes, and let us hold these joys and sorrows with all the love and tenderness that they deserve. In gratitude for new life, for longtime friendships, for the joy of being together and the joy of spring bursting forth all around us. And we hold them in hope that healing will come to those who need it, that the burdens of grief and sorrow will rest lightly on the shoulders of those who carry them. No matter what you carry in your heart today, no matter if you could speak it or if it stays there still, I pray that you feel the love of this community. I pray that it holds you up in the moments when you need it most, and that you always find in it what you are looking for. And now our period of meditation will be sung together, a return to comfort me. This time we'll sing it all the way through. And we'll remain seated, so feel free to close your eyes even, rest your hands on your heart, and really take this time to ask for the comfort it is that you need. And our hymn leader, Amy, will cue us on the words of the different verses, so you don't have to be thinking too hard about getting everything right. Just let the music flow. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort I hope that you are comforted today and every day. I hope that you find space to be gentle with yourself, to be soft-hearted, to grieve all that has been lost. I hope that when we leave this place and go out into the sunshine, we go with hearts cleansed by a gentle rain, having shed tears alongside a community that loves and holds us through life's most heavy burdens. We'll close our time today with words adapted from UU minister Gwen Matthews as we extinguish our chalice. She writes, "Feel that in your bones, in your muscles, in your heart, in your blood. Feel that, the struggle, the worry, the pain, the loss. Feel that. Each breath, every inhale, exhale, we are living, breathing, connected. Feel that." Amen.